Stress is not new. Anxiety is not modern. But today, more than ever, the mind is under attack. Deadlines, expectations, notifications, comparisons, uncertainty, the pressure to be strong, the fear of falling behind. Most people wake up already tense, already overwhelmed, already fighting battles that exist only in their mind. And here is the hardest truth. It's not life that makes us anxious. It's our perception of life. The world is loud, yes, but the real noise begins inside us. The mind imagines, anticipates, exaggerates, and catastrophizes. We fear possibilities that never happen. We replay memories that can't be changed. We fight realities we cannot control. And this inner resistance becomes the true source of suffering. The ancient Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to appear wise, but to survive the pressure of ruling an empire. Seneca battled anxiety long before psychology gave it a name. Epictetus, born a slave, learned to build inner freedom even when the outer world gave him none. They all faced stress, chaos, fear, and uncertainty. And yet, they remained calm. Not because life was easier for them, but because their minds were trained. Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming unshaken. It is about learning how to respond instead of react, how to separate what deserves your energy from what doesn't, how to stand firm when the world becomes heavy. In this video, you will learn 7 powerful Stoic lessons that will help you transform stress into clarity, stabilize your emotions, and navigate pressure with strength. These lessons combine ancient philosophy with modern psychology, giving you practical tools you can use today, not someday. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, if your thoughts run faster than your breath, if anxiety has been quietly controlling your decisions, then stay with me. By the end of this video, your mind will feel lighter, calmer, clearer, and far more powerful. Before we begin, set your intention for today. Comment one word: calm. Lesson 1. Accept reality instead of fighting it. Stress begins where reality ends. Not in what is happening, but in the resistance you create against what is happening. Most people live in a constant battle with life, wishing it were different, hoping circumstances would change, replaying the past, fearing the future, and denying the present moment. This conflict, this internal opposition to what already is the true birthplace of stress. The Stoics understood this with absolute clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Align yourself with what happens, for what could be more natural?" He wasn't suggesting passive acceptance or weakness. He was teaching strength. The strength to stop wasting emotional energy fighting realities that cannot be undone. Modern psychology confirms this ancient truth. Research shows that emotional resistance amplifies stress by activating the brain's threat system. In other words, the more you fight what is already happening, the more your mind interprets it as danger. Acceptance, on the other hand, activates the rational brain, reduces emotional load, and restores cognitive clarity. Accepting reality does not mean embracing pain. It means refusing to worsen it. Think about it. A delayed flight is stressful only when you believe it shouldn't be delayed. A breakup hurts more when you insist that it shouldn't have happened. A mistake becomes torment when you repeat that it shouldn't have occurred. The event itself is neutral. Your judgment about it creates a storm. The Stoics practiced a skill called conforming the mind to the moment. It means placing your attention fully in what is real, instead of drowning in what should be. Stress comes from arguing with life. Peace comes from aligning with it. But acceptance is not resignation. It is mental positioning. When you accept what already is, you free your energy to respond intelligently instead of emotionally. You stop fighting the past and start focusing on the next action. You stop resisting the situation and begin shaping your response. You stop losing time on what you cannot change and gain time to strengthen what you can. Imagine holding a rope tied to a pulling horse. The more you resist, the more you are dragged, burned, and exhausted. The moment you release the rope, the struggle ends. The horse may still run, but you stop suffering. This is the power of acceptance. Let's bring this into everyday life. If someone speaks badly of you, acceptance means this is how they chose to act, not how dare they, why me, this is unfair. If plans fall apart, acceptance means this is what happened, not this ruins everything. If life becomes difficult, acceptance means this is the reality I must work with, not this shouldn't be happening. Acceptance brings back your strength. Resistance drains it. Try this Stoic exercise. When something triggers stress, pause and say, internally or out loud, this is the situation. I accept it. Feel what happens. Your breathing slows. Your mind quiets. Your body relaxes. The storm becomes manageable. Once you stop wasting energy fighting the present moment, you recover the power to transform it. Accepting reality is the first step to calming the mind, not the last. It is the foundation upon which all other Stoic techniques rest. Without acceptance, you are trapped in a spiral of thoughts. With acceptance, you gain stability. And with stability, you can choose your next move with clarity and purpose. Acceptance does not remove difficulties. It removes the suffering you add to difficulties. And that is where calm truly begins. Lesson 2. Control the inner dialogue. Your thoughts create your anxiety. If stress begins with resisting reality, anxiety begins with believing every thought your mind produces. The Stoics understood that the mind is not a passive observer. It is a storyteller. And left untrained, it becomes a ruthless narrator, exaggerating danger, inventing problems, replaying fears, and whispering lies that feel like truth. The first battlefield of anxiety is not the outside world. It is the inner dialogue. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently think." He knew that thoughts are not neutral. They shape emotions, decisions, and ultimately the entire direction of your life. Modern psychology confirms this. Anxious thoughts activate the same part of the brain responsible for physical threats, causing the body to react as if danger is real, even when nothing is happening. Most people are not anxious because life is terrifying. They are anxious because their mind speaks without discipline. Let's look at how the inner dialogue typically works. A small problem appears. The mind says, "What if this gets worse?" Someone is quiet. The mind says, "They must be angry with me." A situation is uncertain. The mind says, "Something bad is going to happen." None of these thoughts are facts. They are predictions, fueled by emotion, not truth. The Stoics taught that you should never accept a thought without questioning it. Epictetus said, "When the thought arises, examine it." In other words, don't let your mind speak unchecked. Because a thought unexamined becomes a belief becomes emotion, and emotion becomes suffering. Anxiety is not created by events. It is created by interpretations. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy uses this same principle. Thoughts arrow emotions, Arrow reactions. Change the thought, and everything that follows changes too. But how do you control the inner dialogue? The Stoics used a simple but powerful method. Objectify the thought. Instead of saying, "I am afraid," they would say, "There is fear present." Instead of saying, "I am stressed," they would say, "A stressful thought is appearing." This small linguistic shift creates psychological distance. You are no longer inside the thought. You are observing it from the outside, which is the position of power. When you step back, the thought loses intensity. You see it more clearly, you question it, you weaken it. Try this exercise the next time anxiety whispers in your mind. Catch the thought. Notice when your inner dialogue becomes chaotic. Label it, "This is a fear-based thought. This is an assumption. This is my mind imagining danger." Challenge it. Ask, "Is this true?" Ask, "What evidence do I have?" Ask, "Is my mind reacting or reasoning?" Replace it. Replace fear with clarity. "I don't know what will happen, but I can handle it. This thought is not reality. My mind is reacting, not predicting." This simple four-step process dismantles anxious thinking. It gives you authority over your mind instead of letting your mind control you. But here's the deeper Stoic insight. You don't need to eliminate negative thoughts. You only need to stop being ruled by them. Marcus Aurelius had negative thoughts. Seneca had fears. Epictetus had frustrations. But they refused to let these thoughts dictate their actions or their identity. You may not control the first thought that appears, but you always control the second thought, and the third, and the ones that follow. Anxiety grows when the mind repeats the same unchallenged narrative. Peace grows when you learn to interrupt it. Remind yourself daily, a thought is not a command. A thought is not a fact. A thought is not fate. It is only an option, one of many, and you choose which one to follow. When you learn to control the inner dialogue, you don't just reduce anxiety. You reshape your entire mental world. You become calmer, clearer, more rational, more grounded. You stop living in imagined futures and return to the present moment, the only place where strength exists. Mastering your dialogue is mastering your life, because every action, every emotion, every direction begins with a thought. If you control the source, you control everything that flows from it. Lesson 3. Separate what you control versus what controls you. Stress becomes unbearable when you try to control everything. Anxiety intensifies when the mind believes it is responsible for the entire world. The Stoics understood that most suffering comes from confusing two categories: what is in your control and what is not. The moment you fail to separate them, life feels overwhelming. The moment you learn to distinguish them, life becomes clear again. Epictetus taught this as the foundation of freedom. Some things are up to us, and some are not. He was not simplifying life. He was exposing its deepest structure. Your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, your attitude, these are yours. The past, the behavior of others, external outcomes, accidents, opinions, the future, these are not. Modern psychology confirms the same truth. People with an internal sense of control feel calmer, more confident, and more resilient. Those who constantly try to control the uncontrollable experience chronic anxiety, frustration, and mental fatigue. Because when you spend your energy in the wrong direction, you weaken the part of your life you can actually improve. Every stressful situation can be divided into two parts: what happened, what you can do about it. Most people focus on the first part, where they have no influence. They fight circumstances, resist outcomes, replay conversations, fear the future, and waste emotional energy on what is already out of reach. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Redirect your attention to the second part, your response, your reasoning, your next step. Imagine pouring water into a broken container. No matter how much you add, it never fills. This is what happens when you invest energy into things you cannot control. You empty yourself emotionally and mentally. But when you pour that same energy into your actions, choices, and conduct, everything changes. You regain strength because you're finally focusing where your power exists. Try this Stoic exercise. When stress rises, ask yourself one question: what part of this is mine? Not, what do I want to happen? Not, what should have happened? Not, what are they doing? Just, what can I control right now? Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's your tone of voice. Maybe it's your next small action. Maybe it's the meaning you give to the moment. This shift is not symbolic. It's transformational. The mind becomes lighter the moment it stops carrying responsibilities that were never its own. You stop battling the weather and start steering your ship. You stop fighting people's opinions and start controlling your reactions. You stop fearing the future and start preparing for it. Clarity comes from direction. Direction comes from control. Control comes from focusing only on what is truly yours. The world may not bend to your will, but your inner world can. And when your mind learns to stop chasing what it cannot influence, stress loses its power. Anxiety fades. Life becomes manageable again. Separating what you control from what controls you is not just a lesson. It is the foundation of inner peace. Everything else in Stoicism rests on this truth. Lesson 4. Slow the breath, calm the mind. If the mind is fire, the breath is water. When anxiety rises, when thoughts run too fast, when pressure tightens your chest, the Stoics understood a simple truth. The quickest way to calm the mind is to calm the breath. Because the breath is the bridge between the body and the brain. It is the one tool you always carry, and the one tool you forget to use. Marcus Aurelius observed that the mind becomes stable when the breath becomes steady. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Slow, controlled breathing reduces the activity of the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, and activates the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason. In other words, breathing changes your brain in real time. It is not spiritual, it is not symbolic, it is biology. Most people breathe in a panic without realizing it. Short, shallow breaths, fast inhales, tight chests. This signals danger to the brain. The brain then signals danger to the body, and the cycle intensifies. Anxiety is not always a thinking problem. Sometimes it is a breathing problem. The Stoics trained themselves to return to the breath during difficulty. They knew that when the mind is overwhelmed, words may fail and reasoning may weaken, but the breath remains accessible. It is the first anchor of calm. Here is the simplest Stoic exercise, one that has survived thousands of years. Inhale slowly. Pause. Exhale even slower. The magic is in the exhale. When the exhale is longer than the inhale, the nervous system switches out of panic mode and into calm mode. This is not theory. It is a measurable shift inside the body. The heart rate lowers, the muscles relax, the brain quiets, stress loses its grip. Try this right now. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Feel the difference. Your mind softens. Your shoulders drop. Your thoughts slow down enough for clarity to return. This technique, practiced consistently, becomes a shield against stress. You can use it in difficult conversations, during moments of uncertainty, while facing a heavy decision, or when anxiety suddenly appears without warning. But here is the deeper Stoic insight. The breath teaches you presence. When you focus on your breathing, you interrupt the cycle of rumination. You stop replaying the past. You stop imagining the future. You return to the moment. And in the moment, stress has less room to grow. Stoic breathing is not about relaxation. It is about reclaiming control. It reminds you that while life may be chaotic, your inner world does not have to be. It teaches you that calmness is not something you wait for. It is something you create. Breathing is the only activity that happens both automatically and intentionally. This makes it the perfect training ground for your mind. Control the breath, and you learn to control yourself. Every time stress hits, return to this truth. The breath is always available. The breath is always with you. The breath is always the way back to yourself. Slow the breath, and the mind will follow. Lesson 5. Choose the smallest next action. Stress grows when the mind tries to solve everything at once. Anxiety becomes unbearable when you feel you must fix the entire future today. The Stoics understood that overwhelm is not caused by the size of the problem, but by the size of your focus. When you look at the whole mountain, you freeze. When you look at the next step, you move. And movement is the antidote to anxiety. Seneca said it clearly. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the weight you feel is not from the situation itself, but from the endless mental predictions surrounding it. What if this goes wrong? What if I can't handle it? What if everything falls apart? The mind creates pressure by jumping into tomorrow, into next month, into next year. The Stoic way is to shrink the timeline. Bring your attention back to what is right here, right now. Not the whole task, not the whole future, just the next actionable step. Modern psychology calls this behavioral activation, the process of reducing anxiety by taking small, concrete actions. Not because action magically solves everything, but because it interrupts paralysis. When you move, even slightly, the brain shifts from fear mode to problem-solving mode. Clarity increases, emotion decreases, confidence returns. The Stoics mastered this principle long before psychology named it. They taught that no one can act in the future. You can act only in the present. Anxiety wants you to think in large, vague, overwhelming terms. Calmness comes from focusing on a single, manageable action. Think of a dark room. If you try to illuminate the whole space, you panic because you can't see anything. But if you light a small candle, you suddenly see enough to take one step. One step leads to another. And eventually, the entire room reveals itself. Not because you forced clarity, but because you moved. This is what the Stoics meant when they said, "Do what is in front of you." It is not simplicity, it is strategy. Practical examples. You have an overwhelming project? Break it down to the smallest unit. Open the document. Name the file. Write one sentence. You're stressed about finances? Start with one controllable action. Check your balance. List your expenses. Choose one cost to reduce today. You're anxious about your future? Stop trying to understand your entire life. Choose one action that aligns with the life you want. Send one email. Read one page. learn one skill, take one step. Each small action lowers emotional intensity. You feel less threatened by the situation because you are no longer passive. Action gives you agency. Agency gives you calm. And calm gives you the ability to see the situation clearly. The Stoics knew that when you take the smallest next step, you break the illusion that you are powerless. You prove to your mind that movement is possible. And once movement begins, momentum builds. But here is the deeper truth. The smallest step is often the most important because it transforms intention into reality. It shifts you from thinking to doing, from imagining to acting, from fear to clarity. One small action can change your emotional state more effectively than hours of overthinking. When the mind gets stuck, the body must lead. The Stoics understood this long before science proved it. Action interrupts anxiety's script. It disrupts the cycle of catastrophic thinking. It brings your attention back to the present moment, where strength is available. This lesson is not about productivity. It is about peace. It is about breaking the mental fog that makes everything feel impossible. It is about proving to yourself that you are capable, even when you feel overwhelmed. Every journey is completed through single steps. Every solution emerges from small actions repeated. Every storm becomes manageable when you focus on what you can do now. So whenever stress begins to rise, whenever anxiety begins to tighten your chest, ask yourself, what is the smallest next action I can take? Then take it. Not because it solves everything, but because it dissolves the illusion that nothing is possible. Small steps, repeated with consistency, create a powerful life. Peace grows when panic shrinks, and panic shrinks when you move, one action at a time. Lesson 6. Rehearse difficulties before they arrive. Anxiety thrives in the unknown. The mind fears what it has not yet faced, exaggerating every possibility and imagining every danger. The Stoics discovered a powerful antidote to this kind of fear. Prepare for what might happen before it happens. They called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Not to create fear, but to dissolve it. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." This was not pessimism. It was mental strength. Because what the mind rehearses, it no longer fears in the same way. When the unexpected becomes expected, stress loses its sharp edge. Modern psychology calls this exposure and cognitive rehearsal. When you imagine a difficult scenario calmly, intentionally, and repeatedly, your brain becomes familiar with it. And what is familiar becomes less frightening. Your nervous system learns the contours of the situation before reality introduces them. You build a kind of inner immunity. Most people never do this. They prefer to hope that things will go smoothly. They avoid thinking about potential challenges. They distract themselves from possibilities that make them uncomfortable. But avoidance is expensive. The less you prepare, the more you panic when difficulty arrives. The Stoics did the opposite. They faced difficulties twice, first in the mind, then in real life. Because when you face something mentally first, you strip it of its illusion. You see it clearly, without panic. You notice what is actually within your control. You prepare emotionally, you prepare logically, you prepare practically. And most importantly, you stop being shocked by life. Shock is the real trigger of stress. Let's apply this with a simple exercise. Take a moment and imagine something that worries you. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, calmly, rationally, like an observer. A conversation that may not go well. A financial situation that feels uncertain. A responsibility that scares you. a decision you have been postponing. Now, ask yourself, if this happened, what would I actually do? What choices would remain? What inner strengths could I rely on? What steps would I take next? This exercise transforms fear into clarity, clarity into preparation, preparation into strength. The Stoics didn't rehearse difficulties to attract bad events. They rehearsed them to build resilience so that bad events would not break them. They wanted to eliminate the element of emotional surprise. Because emotional surprise leads to loss of control, loss of reason, and high stress. When you prepare mentally, you create a buffer between yourself and the world, a cushion of stability, a psychological shield. The event may still be unpleasant, but it will not crush you. You meet it with familiarity instead of fear. Think of a firefighter. They do not meet flames for the first time in a real emergency. They train in controlled environments. They study scenarios repeatedly. They rehearse the worst long before the worst arrives. So when the moment comes, they act, not panic. Premeditation is mental training. Rehearsal is emotional training. Preparation is spiritual armor. But here is the deeper Stoic wisdom. Rehearsing difficulties makes you appreciate life more, not less. When you imagine losing something, a loved one, your health, your opportunities, you value it deeply. You stop taking it for granted. You return to gratitude. You live more fully in the present. This is the dual beauty of Stoic preparation. It reduces fear of loss and increases gratitude for what you have. When you adopt this practice consistently, something extraordinary happens. Stress transforms into strategy. Anxiety transforms into foresight. Fear transforms into readiness. Life will still bring challenges. That is unavoidable. But you will stop being emotionally hijacked by them. You will meet difficulties with a calm, practiced mind. You will respond with wisdom instead of panic. You will navigate the unexpected with stability and dignity. Because the truth is simple. What you prepare for cannot destroy you. What you rehearse cannot paralyze you. And what you anticipate cannot break your inner peace. Premeditation does not make life darker. It makes you stronger. Lesson 7. Make peace with uncertainty. The deepest source of anxiety is not stress, nor pressure, nor difficulty. It is uncertainty. The human mind craves predictability. It wants guarantees, clarity, fixed outcomes, and solid ground. But life offers none of that. Every day is built on unknowns. Every plan rests on variables you cannot control. Every path contains hidden turns. The future is not something you see. It is something you enter. And that truth scares most people. The Stoics understood that uncertainty is not an error in life. It is the nature of life itself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that the world moves unpredictably, that events unfold beyond desire and expectation, and that no amount of worry will make the future more stable. He accepted uncertainty not because he was indifferent, but because resisting the unpredictable makes the mind suffer twice, once in imagination and again in reality. Modern psychology supports this. The fear of the unknown activates the brain's alarm system more than actual danger. People feel anxious not because something bad is happening, but because they cannot predict what will happen. The mind creates scenarios, imagines outcomes, races into possibilities, and tries desperately to gain control over something that cannot be controlled. This is why uncertainty feels heavy. You try to control what cannot be controlled. You try to know what cannot be known. You try to see what has not yet occurred. But here is the Stoic insight that changes everything. You don't need certainty to be at peace. You need stability within yourself. The Stoics practiced something powerful. They focused not on predicting the future, but on strengthening the mind that would face the future. They trained themselves to become calm, rational, resilient, steady, so that whatever arrived, they were prepared. They did not beg for a predictable world. They built an unshakable mind. Think about this truth. The worst moments of your life were unpredictable, but you survived them. You adapted. You became stronger because of them. This is evidence that you can face uncertainty, even if you don't feel ready. The fear of uncertainty begins to dissolve when you ask yourself, have I not handled the unknown before? Have I not survived every difficult moment so far? Have I not learned from the things I feared most? You have already walked through storms that once terrified you. You have already overcome challenges you thought would break you. The future is not as threatening as your imagination suggests. The Stoic approach to uncertainty is built on 3 pillars. 1. Stay present. Most anxiety comes not from the moment you're in, but from the imagined ones ahead. Return to now. This moment is manageable. This moment is clear. This moment is yours. 2. Prepare without worrying. You can take precautions, make plans, think ahead, but do it calmly. Preparation is strength. Worry is suffering. Do the first, avoid the second. 3. Trust your inner stability. The Stoics believe that if your mind is steady, the world loses its power to shake you. The unknown becomes simply the next chapter. You read it as it comes. Here's a practical exercise. Whenever uncertainty rises, ask yourself, what part of this fear is imagination, and what part is reality? Most of the time, the fear is almost entirely imaginary. Naming this reduces its power. Then ask, what can I actually do right now? This brings you back to clarity. Finally, tell yourself, I will deal with tomorrow when tomorrow becomes today. This single sentence brings the mind back to the present, a place where strength is always available. The truth is simple and liberating. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Your resistance to it is. Life will always move in ways you cannot foresee, but your mind can remain stable. Your attitude can remain calm. Your responses can remain rational. Your inner world can remain untouched by the chaos outside. Peace does not come from knowing the future. Peace comes from trusting your ability to face the future. When you make peace with uncertainty, you stop fearing life and start living it. In the end, calm is not something the world gives you. It is something you build from within. Stress, pressure, fear, uncertainty. None of these are invincible forces. They only gain power when the mind is untrained. Through acceptance, through control of your thoughts, through focusing on what is truly yours, through steady breathing, small actions, preparation, and inner stability, you rediscover something essential. You are not powerless. You are not fragile. You are not at the mercy of chaos. The Stoics knew that life would always be unpredictable, but the mind could always be strengthened. And today, you've taken 7 steps toward that strength. Carry them with you. Practice them daily. Return to them when the world becomes heavy. Your calm is your responsibility. Your peace is your discipline. And your strength is already within you. If this video brought you clarity or comfort, comment one word. steady,